Happy Sunday! Welcome to Lit Talk. We are about to begin our segment as we focus on students or our children who are between the ages of 8 to 13. So, very shortly, we're going to start our conversation with Lennia, in which we're going to there she goes. We're going to discuss what are some of the best practices we can do as parents to help our children who are between the ages of 8 to 13. And so I have been in many conversations this week, and people are excited about this topic. So let's go ahead and get started and add her to the video. Here she comes. So again, hey girl.
Hey, it actually worked this time. Awesome.
I know, on the first try. Look at that. How's your been so far?
Can't complain, can't complain.
Can't
How
complain.
are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Excited to get started. So as I was just kind of introducing as we were coming in, that this topic today is going to be focusing on, before we did 4 to 7 year olds. Today we're really going to be focusing on our older kids. As for Births in the Books, we work with the younger, but we also work with the older. And I have had a few conversations with some parents who are really struggling when it comes to this part,
Oh.
because the older our kids get, we can seem like it's pulling teeth to get them to read, or pulling teeth to get them to want to really just like do the work that it takes to get better. And so we're just going to talk about what are some strategies that parents can use and their children to help them with reading. So do you want to kind of intro it in, or I can just start with our first question?
Um, you can start the first question because that'll help me. I kind of got it guided through.
Got you. So our first question is probably required that our children 7 and under or guided support to help them. But what does comprehension look like for a child who's 8 to 13? So our last conversation, we talked a lot about the work that parents and children can do together just because of their age. Is that still
Right.
the same thing that happens with our kids who are 8 to 13 years old?
It does, even through 13, the third grade, because eight to 13 is like third grade to eighth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So that also can be chunked up into different categories or level abilities. So comprehension at the third through eighth grade is more independent because, as we said before, with the younger students, our younger kids, we're reading to them practically everything,
Right.
and we're almost spoon feeding them what they need to know. We're giving them the questions, we're repeating the questions for them to make sure that they are understanding what they are reading and what you're asking of them. Now, it's kind of the same as they get older, but they're more independent. So, third grade, that's that testing year, the first testing year, and they are required to be more independent. So, they're doing more independent reading. A lot of their assignments are also done more independent at the 8 to 13 age level. And there's less with the comprehension when it comes to those age levels. It's less regurgitation. It's more higher thinking. It's not just, well, what did you see
Right.
Goldilocks do?
Mm-hmm.
And you say Goldilocks went in the bear's house. Well, when they get older, it's, well, why did Goldilocks go in the house and take something that was not hers? It's a deeper learning, deeper thinking, higher learning.
Mm-hmm.
um, they're also required to do more summarizing and synthesizing, actually getting into the story, not just listening to it for the pure pleasure of it. And they also focus more on the main ideas and details and the story elements. Who's in the story? What is the setting of the story? What's the problem in the story? What's the solution in the story? So the there are some read alouds in maybe like the third and fourth grades, but it's not as frequent because they still need to hear for the fluency. They need to hear someone read. So that's also why I kept pushing read with your kids at home.
Exactly.
Maybe even pick a book that you all read together, take turns. Um, but that's a little bit more of what comprehension looks like for the older kids. Also, the books are not just storybooks, they're becoming chapter books.
Yep.
The higher level text, they're even delving more into the informational text as well. But mainly, even the chapter books for the third graders, like my daughter is in third grade now and she's reading chapter books, but it's still on those like Pinkalicious, those series that we talked about in previous talks. Like Pinkalicious gets a little bit deeper. The text is a little bit more difficult to read and decipher. So that's one of the things that makes comprehension a little bit different for our older kids.
Yeah. I think just even what you hit, like they're still going to need our guidance, right? They're still going to need
Yeah,
our support. However, I think it's important for us as parents to know what are the skills they need to be practicing, right? And so if they're reading a
exactly.
story, we're not just asking them like the simple who, what, when questions. We're actually asking,
Exactly.
hey, why do you think they did that? And looking how things have domino effect. Like, okay, so what if this changed in the story? Just trying to make sure
Yeah,
they're actually listening and comprehending to what they read. So just the types of questions tend to change.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Um, so kind of moving through that, as parents, we want to still help them and
Right.
spoon feed them, even for the well, more for our younger kids, but again, they're going to be more independent then. So I think to help parents, I'll stick with fiction texts
Mm-hmm.
more so, because a lot of they'll be doing a lot of reading as they get older, a lot of, as I said before, chapter books, novels, graphic novels as they get older. It's important to remind your student or your child, because as you mentioned, they don't really want to talk to us as they get older, but just remind them to start thinking about what's important while they're reading.
Right.
So not just reading the words, what we call a word caller. They're not paying attention to what they're reading. They just say, you told me read, I'm going to read, I can do it.
Exactly.
But actually pay attention to what they're reading, paying attention to what's going on, like you said, the problems, the solutions,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on there, and reminding them that the passages are longer, so you have to pay attention. It's not just a couple of sentences on a page. They are full blown 5 sentence paragraphs as they get older. So it's important to keep them focused with that. Now, um, in the past, and just in my experience as a student, everybody said take notes, take notes, take notes, take notes. And taking notes are a very good idea, but sometimes we need a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the tools or strategies that I wanted to share with you all today were graphic organizers. And those graphic organizers, they're just a map, if you will, or structure to help them get their thoughts together. So, yes, we're remembering who the characters are, who the settings are, what the setting is, what problems going on, what are the main events going on, but we need to put that somewhere.
Exactly.
Because you can read, I'm guilty of reading a whole paragraph and forgetting
What do
everything
I just
that happened and have to reread it again. So the graphic organizers help them organize their thoughts
exactly.
without repeating the same thing over and over again, but it organizes their thoughts. Um, there are different types of organizers for the different grade levels. I did want to show you all a couple of them that I have.
Okay.
I'll start with the younger kids. So the main idea and detail. So what is the story trying to tell you? What are the little things going on there? This is one that I came up with. This is from Reading A to Z, which is one of the websites that I've suggested before.
Yeah.
So here it just has the main idea, and then it makes it fun for the younger kids because it has a ladder, so it kind of makes it a little more interesting. And as a parent, you can give this to your child teachers may give it to them as an assignment, but it's just building those skills
Yeah.
um, so they can do it independently. Then we have one of these that where it does ask you like the who, what, when, what, why, and then you give a summary at the end. Can you see it okay?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Okay, I'm just making sure because I'm trying to do the laptop. Excuse the phone, I'm in the office. Uh, and another one for the younger kids that a parent can use is the character. It shows, like we said, the characters, the settings. What was the problem of the story, the events that happened in the story, and then what was the solution. So it just pulls their thought process in just a little bit more so they know what they're thinking about. Because sometimes our teachers want them to, hold on, they want them to write about it or maybe do an essay. My camera's freezing. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, the camera is actually freezing. So, well, since I have it up, I'll show you the ones for the older kids. It gets more detailed. So here we have a main idea and detail. So here you have the main idea. So the story might be about polar bears, and that this one is really good for the informational text, even though I didn't want to really touch on it, but it does help for informational text. So it might be about polar bears. Well, where do polar bears live? And that might be a main idea. How do they keep warm? Might be the second idea detail, and maybe what do they eat to survive in the cold. Just an example. I'm trying to make sure I give a clear understanding of what it is. Another one that they can use for both informational and fiction is the KLW chart.
Yep. Hmm.
So it asks you what you want to know, what you do know, your prior knowledge, activating that prior knowledge. So you can ask your child, what do you know about polar bears? And what do you want to know about polar bears? And then going back and seeing what you actually did learn from your reading. And then it's just one more, and this is more for like our eighth graders, our older kids,
Okay.
because it asks who are the important people in the story. It's focusing their thoughts a little bit more. The setting, when and where does the story take place? It gets more explicit, which is what Common Core does
Hmm.
with the curriculums that the teachers are giving our students and our children. So my camera won't switch back around to me. I don't know why. Oh no. Okay, wait. Well, anyway, I keep talking. So those are some other things that the parents could actually use. And there's also another one, since the camera won't turn around.
Oh, it's on you
Oh, there it is.
now.
Fine. When I finally come up with
Right.
one, but there's another one when you're retelling a story, which is a lot of what the younger kids are, the younger, I'll say 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, they're retelling a lot of their stories. Um, they need to keep it in order. So they'll say, I'll keep Goldilocks and the Three Bears as an example. They'll say, okay, the bear ran Goldilocks out, and then she ran into the house, and then she ate the porridge, and then she broke the chair. Yes, those are all valid points of that story, but you need to keep it in order. And those
Yep.
are the things that we need to comprehend. They need to comprehension.
Got you. I would just add, as she's just sharing, like the one thing that I see that's a big difference from when we talked last time, just understanding that there is so many. Like I think in our smaller groups and in our early readers, the details are very minimal. Right? It's very much so just trying to get you to imagine what's happening next and looking at the picture,
Visualizing.
a lot of visualizing, right? You're looking at a lot of the pictures to tell the story. Whereas as they get older, it's all written, right? They don't have pictures.
Yes.
And so they're saying, hey, that's a skill that your child should already have. We don't have to create all these beautiful, colorful pictures. We're going to do it
Exactly.
in the words, in the adjectives, in the imagery that's in the story. So there's
The context.
more information that they have to hold on to. And so I think the biggest thing that could be a struggle for our older kids is knowing that, man, there's there are certain reading skills that they should have already mastered. And if they haven't, it makes reading
Mm-hmm.
a text with no pictures hard, right? And it makes trying to imagine what the mother looks like without seeing a picture hard. So I would just encourage parents to see that that is what your child is struggling with, that you can work with them with. Like maybe if it's the imagery that they are with, like, hey, what do you think this mom looks like? You know what I mean? Having more of those kind of conversations
Mm-hmm.
with them, because I know that that can be the part that makes reading difficult for older kids, that they got to do a lot of the work. Like they got to think,
Yes.
they got to think of the pictures, they got to think of the setting, they got to imagine what these things look like without it just being given.
Exactly.
And so this kind of leads to the next question of how can parents help kids? I know there's so many different types of text, right? And so when we start talking about the different texts, it's different strategies. But think as we kind of talk, what are some of those things parents can do to help older kids? Because fictional text for older child is different from when they're young.
So yeah, again, grabbing those graphic organizers. Even if you get them, we talked about a journal before to help them organize their thoughts, because they'll have the worksheets and they'll have the assignments and syllabi that their teachers will give them. But as a parent, to support them, give them that sketchbook. Like you said, some kids have to visualize, have to remember, they know how to visualize, but they were given the pictures, now they need to see it themselves. I myself am a visual learner, so sometimes you have to sketch it out. Well, what does this setting really look like? And then ask them questions like, how do you feel about that? What do you think? Just piggybacking off of what you said as well, that notebook. And even I do like, I'm kind of focused on the graphic organizers,
Mm-hmm.
because even when I was teaching first grade, those small basic organizers helped a lot. Um, Using those, it just really, really helps them hone in on what they're trying to do. And as a parent, you just keep supporting them. So at the end, you would just go back and ask them, okay, well, does this make sense? Is this the orders? Especially a lot of the materials that they read, we may have read already, because a lot of the literature does repeat itself in education. So asking them, well, does this make sense to you? Did you make sure that you got the setting? Have those graphic organizers just for yourself, even if they're not using it, just so it reminds you what questions you need to ask them. What else did I have on? To make sure to keep them on track, make sure that they have their problem, the older kids, their problem and solution. Make sure that I'll give you an example. The kids, younger kids, will probably focus on the color of Goldilocks's chair, the chair she broke. And they might write that down in their graphic organizer. And then you go back and like, well, do you really think that the blue chair, the color of the chair, was as important as the fact that Goldilocks broke the chair and that she was in the house? So you kind of have to help them and guide them, make sure that they know that they're using the important details. Don't just pick anything random,
Yeah,
and remind them of that while they're reading. Don't just pick any random "the sky is blue" statement. Maybe pick up the statement that says, well, just an example, Emily is feeling really sad because she had a bad day. So that would be the detail that you pull out, not the fact that it was cloudy outside.
exactly. Yeah, and you really land to, and we're not going to talk about it today, but we will in future talks about like how does this reading and better understanding help you with writing. And I just know that as a teacher, high school, middle school, graphic organizers have saved the day in so many ways, because again, it's so many details that you have to remember. Also, it helps you kind of help their guiding and what's important, but then also it helps them as they're building their, their intro paragraph, and then they're
Exactly.
able to know, like, hey, if this is one main idea, then I elaborate on this main idea, and they're able to really kind of structure their writing along with also structuring what's happening in the text.
Yeah, that's why I really wanted to touch on the graphic organizers, because it does build up into that writing, because we had spoken about talking about more writing things, and that'll help you set up, like you said, the paragraphs and the essays and guiding their thoughts. Even to this day, I have to sit down. It might not be an actual graphic organizer like the ones that I've shown you, but I have to write it down. As you see, I'm looking down because I have my notes in front of me. I had to make sure that they were organized and in the right order. So these are skills that they're going to use as they get older. So it's important that we get them while they're young.
Yep. And then just to kind of close us out, what will be, like, as we're talking about graphic organizers, how would a parent know, like, hey, as my child is reading this book, this is the graphic organizer I should be using? And then where can they actually locate these graphic organizers?
To answer the question about where they can find them, one of the books, I'll just turn it around. Ooh, there it is. There it is. I got it. There we go. This is Scholastic. This is one of my go-to books. This one is just K through second grade, but they have them for older grades. That's one of the websites I've shared before. And to be honest, they can just Google it. The World Wide Web is a great resource. And figuring out what they actually need, what subject matter, you have to read their assignments. So some assignments are asking for the story plot, and you just really type that in. You type in story map. If they needed the main idea and details, you literally just type it in. It was that easy for me, even when I was finding some more resources for us to share today.
Okay. Yep.
And then the teacher. All day long. The teacher is your best friend when it comes to working with your child and helping them succeed.
Yeah, and I love that you keep stressing that. I know a lot of times as parents, if we see that our children are struggling with reading, I don't think it's like a stigma, like we feel like we failed our child, so we don't go to the teacher and we don't ask questions. But understanding that that is who's working with your child throughout the whole day. They're the ones who are actually giving the assessments and seeing their habits that they can kind of give you some input on. So at the end of the day, definitely conversation is going to help you with helping any child at any level get better at reading. But also on top of that, knowing that there are resources online that you can go to the bookstore. Also on our website, www.versatibooks.org, a lot of the resources that she has shared in previous Lit Talks are on there, and one of them is the Read A to Z that has, like she just shared, the graphic organizer. So I would say go there as a place to get you started. But again, Google. The world we live in, everything is at our fingertips. So you really don't even have to go to a teacher store. You can really just go online. If they're trying to figure out how to compare and contrast, look up a graphic organizer, compare and contrast. So whatever the topic is, I'm pretty sure that you can find it online for your child. Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool. Well, I hope that, again, this is the beginning of a conversation, but for many of our older kids and parents, it's just really a struggle of how do you just really understand all the text that you're reading. So hopefully the strategy that we shared, the graphic organizer that we showed, also the resources, again, hold on, I have a parent who just wrote something. Let's see. A parent can also create a graphic organizer that focuses on certain skills that the child is master. Correct, Nike. So
very true.
There are some sites where you could actually go on and create your own graphic organizer. So if you don't see a graphic organizer that built towards the skill that you're looking for, there are also sites in which you actually create your own. Thank you, Nike, for that suggestion. Cool. Hopefully you all have an amazing Sunday. I will be making sure that once we end this Facebook Live that I put in the comments where to go to the website as far as home for the organization, but also the website that she shared as well, so you can go on there and look and get the resources you need for your child. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. You all have a great evening.
All right. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
Yeah.